Hey now.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
What's up?
I'm Gnarly.
My name is Not Square.
George and
Liebing.
Josh Eustis.
Dope.
Native instruments. Where did it begin?
I've been using NI stuff for so long that I can't even remember what the first thing that I got was, but I do have an early memory of messing with Reactor, and that was sort of my introduction to a lot of synthesizer concepts and really helped me learn stuff, and it was so fun to play with.
The first introduction was in Josh K's studio in Miami in the late 90s at some point, and he showed us Reactor, and Charlie and I were like,
I started playing around in Reactor probably at the very end of the 90s when it was a very, very young product.
it was a different approach to a sort of modular way of thinking about sound generation and sound manipulation.
Reactor's really powerful because it's node-based, so it's very easy. You're not intimidated by writing text code, so you can quite quickly get something going.
The thing that it represents, at least for me, is a sonic frontier. It's the edge case of what you can do with sound.
I often get myself in a situation where I don't have the tool that I'm looking for, and if you don't have it, you just make it.
I've designed the finger, that was in 2009, the mouth, followed that in 2010, and then flesh in 2015.
The amount of instruments that I've designed in Reactor over the years has been well into the hundreds.
But yeah, I think that is like just a well of stuff to explore.
They were one of the first companies to open up, like, hey, we're going to open up the Reactor users library.
A whole DIY group of creative coders.
It was a really great place for people to learn how to build things and look how people design filters or other synths.
There's just so many people making incredible things.
Just whatever you're looking for, there are tens of thousands of instruments.
It started with people like Lazyfish and Martin Brickman, and they're the godfathers.
To me, that was just insanely innovative.
That Reactor community is still active now.
The first NI product that I ever had was definitely TRAKTOR S4, I believe.
I've been using TRAKTOR from about 2007, and it was TRAKTOR Scratch.
Fell in love with the production capabilities, fell in love with how easy the mixing was, the different software integrations, as well as being able to use the more portable versions of TRAKTOR.
As a vinyl purist, I would have never thought digital DJing would have even happened.
Art of DJing, which some people might be mistakenly seeing as most of all syncing records, beat matching music with each other. That's the only thing what's DJing about. It's not.
It's like almost like beat matching is a little bit of a creative block because you end up so stressed out about holding the mix together that it always becomes about beat matching and then less about anything else.
I think that was then the success of TRAKTOR because it just meant that you were able to create a better experience for the people on the dance floor.
It gives me a lot more possibilities with like how many decks I can use, and I've got a whole range of like cue points that I can use, so it's almost like remixing tracks on the fly.
So I use TRAKTOR as like a layering, bouncing effects performance thing where I can gesturally kind of do things on a controller because it's very quick and hands-on. That's what I love about it.
You could loop some stuff in the third deck, loop another sound in the fourth deck, have a track running in the first deck, and some other thing in the second deck, and then add stuff.
I really love in the newer TRAKTOR how there's 4 parameters of effects that you can map to where the filter usually is. So I love putting reverb on and off. I love putting delay on and off. I love putting the phaser on and off because I can make it wet, 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 and then boom, click the button and completely remove that effect.
I've been using TRAKTOR to pitch shift sound effects because of the pitch shifting algorithm is so high quality. You can slow sounds at such a high quality that they're nearly stopped.
You got to tip your hat and say, wow, where it's gone after all these years digitally. It's amazing.
It influenced basically all of DJing up till today. It totally did.
When it comes to native instrument products, the ones that I gravitate towards the most are the Contact libraries.
Contact has been one of my go-to samplers, you know.
Spitfire libraries.
Cloud Supply.
Project Sam's.
Lo-Fi Glow.
The live drums. I use those drum kits a lot.
The Una Corda. It's kind of not a piano and it's kind of not its own instrument. It's just this really interesting hybrid of both those.
I still actually have my original Contact 2 video and the Contact I'm 2 learning. From this day until today, Contact is definitely my primary instrument.
The things that we used to do that used to cost us 20 grand, 30 grand with an orchestra, we're now shooting back and forth using Contact libraries.
I mean, it's remarkable what's happened just with the virtual pianos. There are experimental pianos. Piano you can't own is now on your laptop.
It's worked really, really well for like a lot of the film projects and the video game projects where they were looking for that super like complex, dense, heavy sound.
Everything is customizable. If I want to change even like the smallest element about an instrument, I can do that.
To be honest with you, when you click on this little wrench and when you go to the effects and the process, what you can do is in this instrument, it's just insane.
I can really change the tuning, the pitch, the filtering, like how much low end or high end I want. You can affect the envelope shape of each individual sound. So you can create these very complex sounds.
Contact is the anchor of 95% of what I do these days.
I'd say the first piece of native gear was probably Komplete.
There was Absent, Guitar Rig, there was Massive.
The Massive X, the SM8, you know, just different philosophies of routing, you know, different technologies of routing.
For sure, Massive we didn't even realize how big of a product that would be. I remember we were just like, oh, it's just another cool instrument that they're going to put out. It does some really great stuff. And, you know, lo and behold, years and years later, it became single-handedly, I'd say, one of the most important virtual instruments of like EDM, dubstep, or music, and still used today.
One of the most remarkable instruments that emerged was Absinthe.
On my album, actually, the Gemini Principle, one of the tracks on their 7-year itch features Absinthe heavily.
Like beautiful sounding ambience and beautiful, crazy sounding basses.
Back in 2010, I got Absinthe and FM8, and then I basically wrote a whole record with those synths.
It's unlike any other kind of software synthesizer before.
One of my biggest songs, Night, that has FM8 all over it.
Pretty much as well, just flicked through the presets. I was like, yeah, I like that, put that in.
On my vocals, I love to use Guitar Rig. I like their distortions and that you can kind of create a bunch of components together.
Not nearly enough people know how incredible a product Guitar Rig is. I mean, without it being a synthesizer per se, there are sounds you can make with Guitar Rig that are not possible by other means. Literally not possible by other means.
A lot of times people will ask me, you know, where do I start if I want to get into this, you know, and I always tell them, you know, 2 things. Get Logic Pro, buy Komplete. At that point, if you can't make something, the problem is not the software or the hardware.
So behind me, you might be able to see I have the Komplete Control S61 keyboard, and this is my main controller.
The features that I gravitate towards the most might be the simplest ones, but it's just the feel of the keyboard, the lights, the reaction that I get from the keys.
It's like being a kid in a candy store. With this keyboard, I was able to really explore.
You know, Komplete Control has like a really nice look and feel to it for me. And then of course I like the fact that, even more importantly, that it's integrated into all of the different software from the moment you open it.
It detects all of the parameters for you. So, you know, if I select a specific instrument, it'll show under the encoders what each thing does, and it just makes it very easy to get into a workflow.
I'll take it around everywhere I go. I don't like to use the old MIDI controllers anymore because of it.
So my first introduction to anything Native Instruments related was seeing Jeremy Ellis play on the MK2, I believe it was. a while back. I think I was like 15 when I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I need to try this. I really want to get one.
My overall go-to is Maschine. When I turn anything on, that's what comes on first. It's just the heart of my setup.
Just being able to sample really quickly and having the screens on the Maschine, so you can really get right in and see when you're making chops for samples. Everything's just so much quicker.
You know, Maschine really brought back that drum machine style approach.
It functions as a drum machine, as like a Dr. Rhythm on steroids, you know, kind of thing. So it's like, I love that.
Whether it's tossing a little bit of a reverb or doing a quick like scratch down, those performance effects I think really take what you're doing live to the next level. And I don't see a bunch of devices that can do that. So it feels special to me.
I roll the dice. I like being able to just close my eyes and turn the wheel, push load up, and see what's up.
In terms of drum sound design, it's one of the most powerful tools in all of electronic music technology.
The reverbs, yes, the reverbs are nice. Time stretching is good, very good.
Gating, compression, limiting, expansion, all these things happening in a more whole brain way.
It makes it just so easy to make music all in one device.
It's a little bit like playing a real instrument. You've got that tangibleness of like actually hitting pads and sounds happening, but you've also got that kind of super techie side of it where you're, you know, having to go into the computer and program everything so you can get your sounds ready and make everything sound really nice. So it's like the perfect combination of like playing a real instrument with technology.
Whether it's making beats or making skits process where I'll put a sample from online in it and use that and trigger it at the right time. It's almost like it just pretty much brings out every single thing that, you know, idea that I have in my head I can do. And that's really why it's my number one.
The internal instruments to me are so good. They're bulletproof and you can get anywhere with them.
You're able to dial up your plugins, your synths, right there. Everything's on the face of it. So it's really, really dope, you know, and intuitive. You know, you're able to get things really quickly on the fly. I like to fire things off, you know, in real time and just get that feel of putting it all together almost like in one take.
I've done a lot of stuff where I've like played my instruments straight into the mic input and looped it and sound designed it and like mixed it on the spot and like turned it into like an actual usable melody within a matter of like less than a minute.
It changed my approach to mixing. It changed my approach to arranging. It made me think bigger.
Having now the Maschine Plus, oh man, that's just something else.
I don't know that I've ever, for instance, set out to make a kick drum sound from scratch in Maschine and not landed exactly where I needed to land. And for that, I will love it forever.
It's cool to think that there, at one point, there was no native instruments and then the company got born, you know, and started making things.
If I could go back to 1988, I would never believe that I would be able to do what I can do today.
Like, let's say from 95 to 2005 was this big jump. Everything got faster, everything got, the possibilities were suddenly starting to be endless.
I'm really excited with how technology is improving all the time. Stuff that you can do with machines now compared to like 10 years ago when I first started producing is pretty insane.
It's amazing how far the technology has come, you know, to think that you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars right at your fingertips to be able to call up any effect, call up a fuzz effect or a reverb or these drum sounds or this drum machine. I would have never thought that, ever.
One area that Native Instruments has really affected the music industry and creators is creating like end-to-end ecosystems. I do think it's really cool to have software and hardware that integrates with each other really easily.
At this moment, the technology changed so much, then I have everything inside my DAW, from native plugins to third-party plugins, to PSP, to Isotope, to Eventide, to NI product, to Arturia, you name it, Rory, they're all here. I don't need this stuff anymore, you know what I mean? And the sound's phenomenal.
I very much doubt that there's a single pop production these days that doesn't have some kind of native instrument sound in there.
That a company can operate at from a lonely kid in their room to, the concert stages. I mean, there's no greater tribute to have that kind of impact on generations of creative people. It's fantastic.